me twice, no, I'm done. So I just believe we're this close to a paradigm shift. We're this close. I'm real close to announcing about a week or so that I'm going to be involved at actually local elections and hold people accountable from county commissioner up. We're this close with the network we built. We're very fortunate. We are not taking our ball home. The ball's ours. We're sovereign. We're going to use our power and influence every single place we can. So when I go to bed at night, I can sleep with a clear conscience. Again, in this room, I think it was February last year, I swore I'd never, ever, ever waver on life and ever waver on the Constitution. And if that's not a politically correct thing to say, I didn't care. Of course I ran to win. Of course I ran to win. But more importantly, it's how you win and what you stand for.
You stood in this town, not here, but at the Elks Lodge, made a statement that electing more Republicans is not the answer. All the stuff been going on, the House controls the checkbook, who's in control of the House? In your opinion, what is the answer?
Constitutional men and women. But again, we have the exact government that you and I asked for.
That's right.
That's why I don't blame any person in office. President Obama, we got this thing with Boehner now about taking him to court. First off, a couple things. Where does the court have the power to do that? The power is in the House. It's called impeachment. Impeachment.
Yeah.
Well, that won't play politically. If he's not done things that are liable for impeachment, nobody has or will. When Marshall did the Mayberry case, and the reason why he did the Mayberry case that he did, the way he dictated it was in 1803, it was very interesting. I'll take 2 seconds in the story. The Federalists in 1798, John Adams, that administration was very upset because some of they were called Republicans then, small r, they thought were more friendly for France, and the Federalists were more friendly for England. So they passed a law called the Alien and Sedition Act. And my James Iredell, who I love from our state, voted for it. I don't know how he did it, but he did. And there's a Friends Act, Enemies Act, and a Sedition Act. Adams arrested about 30-something people that badmouthed him in the paper. You could not bail, in the Sedition Act, you could not badmouth any federal officer except for the vice president. And the vice president was a Republican named Jefferson. Madison and Jefferson go, what do you do here? In fact, they did not even sign, they burnt their letters to each other. They're afraid of being opened by the mail to find out who's writing these things. That's a scary time. It's happening today. But the people were so educated, they saw this. They watched it happen. So in 1800, Jefferson won. And a Federalist never won for elective office at the federal level ever again. Because we knew who to vote and how to vote for. Ever. That's what we have to get back. It's us that's important. That's us to understand those 6 pages. We must bind them from mischief to the chains. So during that time, Adams' last day as president, they wanted to flood the courts. Justice of the Peace, county clerk, all these federal positions. And the district court was appointed as a guy named Mayberry. It was the function of the Secretary of State to physically hand it to Mr. Mayberry. It got late that night, the Secretary of State never handed it to Mayberry. The next day, Jefferson takes over. His new Secretary of State is Madison. Madison goes, why are we going to flood the court with these guys? We're in charge now. Heck with it. I'm not going to turn that in. It took 3 years. The guy actually went to a district court, District of Columbia. They said, no, Mr. Mayberry, you have no option to do it. You cannot be part of this. You failed. But they wanted to take it to the federal court to get their opinion. And Marshall, the reason why was, Marshall wanted it because the judicial branch was getting very weak in their powers. You know, the Supreme Court was not built in the 1940s. There was no place to meet. They had a little room. They were not even, because they had no power to influence, just to give their opinions. And they went to there, and Marshall talked about judicial review, this whole idea, and actually said, first off, Marshall goes, this should never come in front of us. We don't even have an opinion here. Then he went on and gave an opinion. Very interesting. Who was the secretary? He was a Federalist. Who was the Secretary of State that forgot to go hand it to Mr. Mayberry? John Marshall should recuse himself from the case. We look at the politics of it. It's never changed. It's never different. So we must understand history, and we must understand education that we have in this. We must understand our responsibility in this. That's why I'm so excited. This is America. We're the first state to declare independence. Let's run back to those people. That's why I like to say a little, sarcastic, but do you hear that? Would you pledge your life, your fortune, and your honor? Would you do that? That you'd work for the federal government through May? Would you do that? But our founders had pledged everything they had, that at the end of the day, you're going to work for the federal government, and they'll tell you how much you get to keep of your money, where you can live, what kind of school, vaccines or no vaccines, a 15-member death panel, what kind of light bulbs, how much water in your toilet. Did you know how much the tax burden was when we went to war, 1770s? All the taxes added up together was less than 2%. And they said, I can't live that way. I'd rather die. I'd rather die. So when Mr. Beck asked me, I was on the show a few times, and he said, well, Greg, what's the answer? Like you said, what's the answer? And I said, again, the answer is not changing the Constitution. The answer is not running away from that beautiful structure. The answer is that we take responsibility for our own actions. We put our effort into that. And then we run for office. Then we take over commissioners. The most powerful government in your life should be your local government. The most powerful person to protect you from the Leviathan of the federal government should be the sheriff. That's in the 38th paper by Hamilton, the 51st paper by Madison. We have to know that structure. We have to know those checks and balances. We have to know those. Ignorance is not an excuse. It's just not anymore. You don't believe MSNBC or Fox, and that's it. The paradigm is not that. It's so much bigger than that. It's so much bigger than that, and yet so much simpler. Who is sovereign, and what is a legitimate government? So you ask me, what do? You got to pray about it, make your call. That's what I got to do. But I believe everybody ran for office. When I had to earn you vote. I had to earn your trust. I had to earn that. And I believe, I'm not saying having a President Paul or President Cruz will change life immediately. Because I don't believe it will. But I believe having that would be a start. But more importantly, I believe I'd rather have 12 of them in the Senate. Mm-hmm. I'd rather have, look at Amash. You guys know Amash from Michigan? Phenomenal constitutional scholar, brilliant. The establishment had a guy against him, and Amash won. See, the establishment has no problem attacking us, calling us things. On the Senate floor, McCain said, you Tea Party people are hobbits. And I wrote a paper on that saying, Mr. McCain, the hobbits won. The hobbits won. All right, so that's why it's important. If you want to be a Republican, earn it, not by words only. Not by words only. And then suddenly something is bad, but now we're in charge of it's good. I met with a guy who ran for president in 2012. I was a private meeting, so I won't say his name. But he goes, Greg, you are crazy. What we want, the Constitution days are gone. We want to have the power of the reins to control education and healthcare, but our way. And I walked out and said, my job's to expose you. And I'm done. So that's what I'm doing. If it's the voice of one, it's the voice of one. I don't really care. I do have GregBrannon.com. I got a TV show I do every Saturday. It goes live in 2 weeks. We've been doing that. We have, it's called Constitution Path to Liberty. But more importantly, I think we still keep doing these things. And I've not slept in 2 days. And I was honored Joel invited me. But I was not going to have an opportunity. I probably get 3 of these a week. It's to keep fighting. But I hope this becomes viral. And that you go do this. You go do this. You go do this. Become viral. And do not be used by anybody other than him. Okay? If we do that, we can be that shining sea at the hill. Now, Reagan took it out of context. He's, Winthrop was quoting, he was quoting Matthew 5 about being lights in there. But we have to be that way. And we got to be the bastion We're atheists, Muslims. Everybody comes in America legally, but we don't change our rule of law. Because we're the only place where you can come free. We are the most open borders the world's ever seen. Let's understand our principles, not be afraid to run to those. We do that, our future generations will thank us. But they're going to look back at us and ask us the question, where were we? That answer, we cannot run from history. We cannot run from history. They're going to ask the question, what did you do? So please, don't forget that. Please understand that you got the power. If it's the power of 1 versus 300 million, doesn't matter. We can do that. You had a question? Or you, sir?
Were you talking to McDaniel in Mississippi?
We had 2 phone calls. Interesting
Can you
thing.
tell us what the latest is down there?
Oh, no, I talked right before the election, that's all. Yeah, I knew Matt better than Mr. McGann. We had a conversation. He actually worked for him. And he's a very, very nice man. He ran hard.
I heard Monday he filed a formal complaint. He finally got the numbers.
It'd be nice to have that. But again, there's nothing wrong with a healthy debate. And when I hear, no, Greg, you lost, shut up, get in line. Oh, no. We just won. We just won. 56% said no to this movement. The question is, do they believe all we do is talk and no action? Or are we going to have action? See, the impetus again goes on us. That's why I don't blame anybody. Are we going to say no? Are we going to hold true? I believe every life, no matter how conceived, is completely sanctified of God. But not just in conception. Understand there's a death penalty, which means euthanasia. Understand that's there. You're over 50, you're not getting a heart, you're not getting bypass, you're not getting a transplant. Understand that that's what's there. So that's why it's important. That's why Jefferson said, if you allow the federal government, or any government, to tell you what kind of food to eat and medicine to take, you're in a worse case of tyranny than you've ever been in. The FDA. Like, we don't want good, healthy medicine? Let the free market dictate that. Great book by Judge Napolitano called Teddy and Woodrow. Goes over the history of FDA. Please read it. It's an easy book. Goes over the history of progressivism. And it just destroys the paradigm of this left-right stuff. But again, where in Article 1, Section 8 is that? If I make a product that you die in, you're not going to buy it. Then there's contract law, then I'm inviolable. There's other things that we don't need the government to structure society. We just need the government to protect the individuals and their rights. Any other questions?
I don't have a question, but you mentioned a while ago that Johnson was against religion.
Who?
Johnson. And, well, Obama is against religion, but that's besides the point. The IRS sends, was on the news the other day, I don't know if they did it already or working on it, to send spies into churches to hear what get preached.
Yeah.
Because they made a deal with the atheists.
Let's go back. The Federal Reserve, the IRS should be eliminated.
Yeah.
What happened, the 16th Amendment should be eliminated tomorrow. Again, we don't need it to run the government. And IRS, last bit of history, I'm all done. I got Robert Yates, wrote under the pseudonym Brutus. Everybody heard of the Federalist Papers? 85 papers by J. Madison and Hamilton to convince New Yorkers to vote for the Constitution. It was too late because they already passed the 9. A bunch of men wrote the anti-Federalist Papers. Mason, Dixon, Henry, Robert Yates. One is called Brutus. Brutus is number 5. Brutus 5, he says if the federal government ever has a tax system on income, on individuals, we'll end up having armed federal agents come to your house, take your property, and put you in jail.
Yeah.
See? Because again, what did Washington say about income tax? He says, "Thou shalt not." He goes in the doxology of our scriptures, 10 Commandments. It says, "Thou shalt not steal." Thou shalt not steal.
But the government can steal.
Because why? Coercion and compulsion. They have the force. That's why it's important that we do peaceful resistance. We say no. What's the Second Amendment for? If the government is afraid of the people, it's liberty. If the people are afraid of the government, it's tyranny. Thomas Jefferson. That's why be guys, we're there. We're this close. How many of you guys were here in this room 12 years ago? I wasn't. Anybody else here? 12 years ago in this room?
No.
You know, we thought everything was okay.
Let me run one other thing by you, just off the side. Would you say that child support falls under the Constitution and is legal?
No, because in the Constitution, everybody deserves a jury trial. The Child Protective Services has no jury trial. That's not in the Constitution. That's not there. Yeah, I mean, I'm black and white. I don't care about the political answer. It's true.
My opinion is this: if I'm married to my wife and we have children, I lose my job, the government does not have the right to come into my home and tell me that if I don't get a job and do my fair share, that I will go to jail or have my driver's license suspended, or my life will be made miserable, you will take my car, you will take my house, you will do this, you will do that.
Unacceptable.
You don't have the right to do that as long as I'm married to her. But when we get divorced, if all of a sudden I lose my job, and the federal government has the right to come in and tell me that I have to pay X amount of money in child support, that usually is not my fair share, it's usually more than that. And that if I do not cooperate, I will go to jail, my driver's license will be suspended. If I own anything.
Well, that's up. This is a state issue, not a federal issue, number one. Number two, you have a more responsibility to take care of your kids. There's no doubt in my mind that's a contract law.
You do.
So if you don't, and I was your brother, I'd go kick your butt. So yeah, so I'm with you. But again, that's not, the government does not need to be in that position. But
No,
really
they don't.
important, in Obamacare, there'll be agents from the federal government coming to our house, it's in there, finding what kind of curriculum you have if you homeschool, if they're vaccinated, their records, the food in your pantry.
Yes.
That's passed. And the Republicans could have funded it.
It-
That's why we gotta tear this crap apart and throw the curtains above, point to the wizard and say no more, and fight. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it.